Response to Dapop10001. Okay, you posted 6 comments on my Mike Shanklin video. I'm not sure exactly what order YouTube put them in, so I read them in descending order. It did seem to read correctly. Now, I find your comments extremely annoying. Not necessarily because of their comment, well, sort of. All you really did is quote other people. That said, I'm going to respond to what you quoted because it's clear to me that you misinterpreted my position. Easy to do, I didn't have much time to elaborate upon any of it, which would mostly be boring. But I'm going to respond to you anyways because I'm narcissistic like that, and I think talking about this stuff is fun. I'm going to read the quote and then say my response to it. Crimes were committed to punish crimes, and crimes were committed to prevent crimes. The world has been filled with prisons and dungeons, with chains and whips, with crosses and gibbets, with thumbscrews and racks, with hangmen and headsmen, and yet these frightful means and instrumentalities have committed more crimes than they have prevented. They claim they are the righteous, the good. Thus, the entire arsenal of governments, laws, politics, soldiers, the courts, legislatures, prisons, and strenuously engaged strenuously engaged in harmonizing the most antagonistic elements of society. Emma Goldman. If you are using this as an argument to support anarchy, I have to point out a flaw. You cannot have crimes without laws. And you cannot have law without some form of organized body of people who define with clarity what is a crime. But such an organized body of people, regardless how large, is by its very nature a centralized authority. Of one form or another, regardless of the title given to it. If all forms of centralized authority are opposed, you cannot have an organized concept of law. The cooperation of humans is necessary to obtain such a thing. Order derived through submission and maintained by terror is not much of a safe guarantee, yet that is the only order that governments have ever maintained. True social harmony grows naturally out of solidarity of interests. In a society where those who always work never have anything, and those who never work enjoy everything, solidarity of interests is non-existent. Hence, all social harmony is but a myth. The most absurd apology for authority and law is that they serve to diminish crime. Aside from the fact that the state itself is the greatest criminal, breaking every written and natural law, stealing in the form of taxes, killing in the name of war, and capital punishment, it has come to an absolute standstill in coping with crime. It has failed utterly to destroy or even minimize the horrible scourge of its own creation. Again, Emma Goldman. Emma Goldman is like the living caricature of a bomb-throwing atheist. I mean, really. Okay, I do have some issues with this. But before I get to the big issue, what natural laws does a government break? It's just a more elaborate version of the same kind of inter-animal coordination all social species have. It's just a more complex pack. We evolved by perfectly natural means, we're natural animals, and our behavior, regardless how destructive and insane, is natural considering our evolutionary background. Also, here's the problem with law. No matter what, there is no way to stop people from stealing. There is no way to prevent someone from killing. There is no way to prevent people from betraying the socially agreed upon moral code. If someone wants to kill, they will. And they can only be stopped if someone else is immediately present to interfere. This means no preventative measure can truly stop cruelty in any real way. All law can do is respond to crimes which have already occurred. It's entirely reactionary. But what can you do after a crime has been committed? You can't unkill someone. And if you verified that an individual has done such a thing, you are immediately aware that individual has no problem with defying socially agreed upon morality, meaning they will most likely do it again. This means most judicial systems carry out revenge and retribution in the form of punishment of some form after the committing of the crime. There is no way to stop crimes from being committed, and we still don't really know what to do once a crime has been committed. And do you seriously believe that a spontaneously formed organization, panel, or something like that, of community members will be able to give any sort of reasonable resolution. They themselves would either dish out unreasonable forms of capital retribution, or if they are biased in favor of the guilty party, let them off with a slap on the wrist. They're human. The fact is, nobody knows how to truly bring about genuine justice. It's a great concept, but how do you make it work? And before you say all criminals are born of the injustice of centralized authority, allow me to point out that humans have been killing each other since before we became human. It's animal behavior. Sadists, pedophiles, and even just people who have no value for the feelings, rights, or lives of others have always existed and will continue to. And until it is somehow bred out of us, or we find a moral solution to the question of justice, crime will be a problem with no solution. Also, I think you need a wider variety of sources. I mean, that's 2 quotes from Emma Goldman, and they're both the largest of your quotes. It kind of implies an indoctrinated sort of bias, though I have very little actual communication with you, so it could just be coincidence. You could just really like her book. Support truth in government. Support WikiLeaks. Okay, I don't think that's actually a quote. I agree with you, and I do support WikiLeaks. In fact, I support Operation Leakspin, now CrowdLeaks, as well. It's a good thing and needs support and protection from everyone in the world. If the government becomes the lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to become law unto himself. It invites anarchy. Louis Dembitz Brendis. I agree completely. In fact, this is precisely why I am an anarchist. To say it in my own words, if you want the people to respect the law, you should start by making respectable laws. As I stated in my video, all centralized authorities consistently overstep their bounds, encroaching upon the social, emotional, and personal behavior of the individual. The vast majority of this sort of law is arbitrary. Its only function is to impose authority, in an attempt to demand arbitrary shows of respect for the authority structure. Good examples are public schools requiring students to sing the national anthem and remove their hats when in the building. These rules serve no functional purpose beyond imposing authority upon the individual in an arbitrary and personal manner. If an authority and its rules are worth respecting, it shouldn't need to forcefully encroach upon the individual's personal behavior in such an aggressive manner. What if I just think the national anthem is really bad on a musical level and would rather write my own version of it? What if I don't think the coincidental geographic region of my birth is anything worth venerating? What if I genuinely oppose the negative impact of nationalism and do not wish to become part of it? The authority structure remains intentionally ignorant of any such arguments and forces itself upon the individual. If the individual does not comply, the authority reacts through revenge punishment. It is not right and cannot be morally justified in any way. Under capitalism, man exploits man. Under socialism, the reverse is true. A Polish proverb. That is pretty good. I like that. That's awesome. Experience has shown that even under the best forms of government, those entrusted with power have, in time and by slow operations, perverted it into tyranny. Thomas Jefferson. Again, I agree completely, but I'd like to point out Jefferson was talking about the future of government. He knew government would slowly change and be swayed by domineering individuals. He made more than one statement along these lines, but he wasn't arguing for all government being abandoned. He was trying to explain that a government, if it is to be beneficial, must always be under the constant watch and maintenance of every individual beneath it. That it is every person's responsibility to ensure the government is consistently trimmed of excess authority and beaten back when it goes too far. Now I ask you, just how many people in contemporary Western culture give a crap about the government? How many people of my age demographic even know what happened in the news last week? How many of them would even care if you told them? Not many. Well, I can tell you that. It isn't a culture of apathy, as many have said. It's a culture of blissful ignorance through intentional distraction. That's what has allowed our governments to become what they are today. Truth never damages a cause which is just. Mahatma Gandhi. I have no idea what that quote has to do with anything unless... No, I just don't have any idea what it has to do with anything you actually quoted. It almost seems contradictory to your other quotes. I mean, it bluntly states that no quantity of facts can stop someone who believes he is justified in his actions. And while it is true you can't stop someone who feels justified, belief does not equal justification. And when belief and justification do not coincide, it is merely delusion. Anyways, that's what I thought about your comments. Thanks for your feedback, and I hope the discussion continues, in a civil manner preferably. After all, I don't want to go to all the trouble of starting a conversation with you just to get an ignorant fag, you suck, ruffle all, lame ass response. Have a good day.